Shalom, all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem HaKodesh. Double honors unto the apostles and elders of GMS, or the true leaders of Israel today, and salutations to all of the Akim who do this work in truth and sincerity, risking their lives and their freedoms to do so, as well as the scattered Israelites who come looking like the heathen, but are not, by way of their forefathers' seeds who are Israelite men. The true name of the Most High is Yahweh, and his son's name is Yahushai, and the Lord's holy chosen people are the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, as well as the ones who suffer under the curses in the book of Deuteronomy. My name is Zakalia, and this video is about the prophecy in Ezekiel chapter 38 regarding Turkey. So let's get the prophecy. Ezekiel chapter 38 and verse 1. And the word of the Lord Yahweh came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Gog, the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and prophesy against him, which is talking about the Russians, as Russia now dwells in the land that Gog and Magog once dwelt. The Russians, they are not the original Gog and Magog. They are an Edomite sovereign nation, and the Edomites are the so-called white people, and they're the ones that are in rulership. All right? It is them because they now dwell in that land where Gog and Magog once dwelt, that is now known as Russia. And say, Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, Behold, I am against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and the Lord is against Russia, because it's an Edomite sovereign nation, and Yahweh Shemishai is against the Edomites. And I will turn thee back, and put hooks into thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth, and all thine army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor. So Yahweh Shemishai is going to put a spirit upon the Russians to go to war. And World War III is a part of Bible prophecy. The second woe is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly. That third woe is World War III. So what we're seeing in the world right now regarding all of these geopolitical tensions and everything, it is eventually going to erupt into World War III, the War of Armageddon. Even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords. So Russia will be going to war with a great company, which is a great alliance. And we can take a look at Russia's allies by way of looking at the BRICS and by also a Google search. Persia, Ethiopia, and Libya, with them, all of them with shield and helmet. So Persia, that is Iran. They were once known as the Persians. They're now known as the Iranians, and they are the biblical Elamites. Ethiopia and Libya is referring to the so-called African nations who are the biblical Hamites. And Russia has built a very strong relationship with those so-called African nations over these past years. And then as well, the relationship between Russia and Iran, very strong. Gomer and all his bands, the house of Togarmah of the north quarters, and all his bands and many people with thee. So this here is talking about Turkey, as they dwell in that land where Gomer and Togarmah once dwelt. All right, it's the same way how the Gog and Magog is broken down. Okay, be thou prepared, and prepare for thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be thou a guard unto them. So Russia is a guard unto its allies. Okay, now verse 6 is talking about Turkey, but then people will say or wonder, well, isn't Turkey a part of NATO? And the answer is yes. Turkey is a part of NATO, but according to the scripture, Turkey is going to join Russia and Russia's allies for the war, World War III. All right, so looking at the world right now, we can see the divide. You have Russia, which is an Edomite sovereign nation, and Russia has enlisted the aid of the heathen, right? Those are its allies. And then you have on the other end, America, which is Babylon the Great, NATO, and the EU, right? America is the whore that rides the beast is NATO, and the 10 horns is the European Union. And then you have as well what has been deemed unofficial or rather an unofficial member of NATO in the state of Israel. All right. So you can see that divide between the Edomites. Okay. America, NATO, the EU, and the state of Israel against Russia and the heathen that Russia has, enlisted to aid them. So Bible prophecy is literally just telling us that Turkey is going to break away from its current alliance and join Russia. So looking at current events and keeping up with it, it is more than clear that the relationship between Turkey and its allies is deteriorating over time. Now we have this situation, which is an ongoing situation because Turkey has been, really blasting against the state of Israel for all of the things that they've been doing. Okay, but let's not forget that the state of Israel is a very important part of the alliance, and America also serves the state of Israel, right? Those people, the Israelis, they are the tribe of Amalek, which is the head tribe of Esau, Edom. All right, and then, the scriptures actually let us know that America does, in fact, serve the state of Israel and will defend the state of Israel. All right, the state of Israel is going to force them out to war. So it says, in Jeremiah chapter 50 and verse 45, therefore hear ye the counsel of the Lord Yahweh that he had taken against Babylon, which is America, and his purposes that he had purposed against the land of the Chaldeans. Talking about the Edomites. Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Surely he shall make their habitation desolate with them. So the least of the flock is talking about the state of Israel, the Israelis. All right. So they are going to draw out America to go to war. And we already know the judgment. Surely he shall make their habitation desolate with them. So they're going to be destroyed. They're going to lose. All right. And then at the end of World War III will be the launch of the ICBM missiles towards America by way of her enemies, and also her own allies will turn against her and shoot missiles at her, and America is going to be destroyed by thermonuclear fire. At the same time, when the missiles are on their way, Yahushua will return and deliver the elect of the nation of Israel from the four corners of the earth and the 1/3 of our people from America who are of the elect. All right, and before that happens, the mark of the beast prophecy, which is a microchip, will be fulfilled. Okay, so all of this is on the table, man. We're heading speedily towards this. Okay, so the point stands that America serves Israel and is a defense for the state of Israel. So when it is that Turkey, being a NATO ally, is speaking in this kind of way against the state of Israel, this adds to the tensions between Turkey and its current alliance, especially with America. All right. So here it is from CNN. Turkey issues, I'm not going to say that word, arrest warrants against Netanyahu and other Israeli officials. So this is just compiling on, previous occurrences of Turkey speaking against the state of Israel this year. Okay. No need to really read the article. All right, I want to, because we got in the gist of that, but I want to show some things because, I was searching for it where, it was stated that Turkey is an unofficial member of NATO, and I know for a fact that I have seen that in articles. That's where I got it from, right? But I was searching for it and couldn't find it. It seems that the information just isn't there, but that's okay, because while searching for it, I learned something new today, which is actually something called NATO Plus. So NATO Plus, we're just going to use the AI because it's quicker. NATO Plus is a proposed framework that extends the security cooperation of NATO to countries like Australia, Japan, South Korea, New Zealand, and the State of Israel. But it lacks NATO's Article 5 Collective Defense Clause. It aims to enhance intelligence sharing, military procurement, and defense cooperation among these nations without the commitment of a mutual defense pact. The arrangement is distinct from the full NATO alliance and has been proposed as a way to deepen security ties, particularly in the Indo-Pacific. So, reading this, they are an unofficial member of NATO. So, the statement is true. All right. And then to add to what I'm saying, I Googled America defense spending on Israel, which is the state of Israel. I don't like calling them Israel because they're not Israel. They are not us. We are Israel. All right. And Israel is a people before it's a place. All right. They are the state of Israel, the Israelis. That's their correct title. But really, their correct title is that their most correct title is that they're the Edomites. All right. The wicked. So the United States provides Israel with a baseline of $3.8 billion in military aid annually as part of a 10-year agreement. All right. Since the start of the war in Gaza in October 2023, the US has provided a record amount of additional military assistance totaling at least $21.7 billion in the 2 years that followed. All right. So America, as I've stated, is a defense for Israel. All right. That is their main number one ally. America serves the state of Israel. Okay. So then as well, regarding going back to Turkey and the prophecy, all right, I Googled two things, right? Here it is. Let's look at Turkey and NATO relations. So once again, the AI. Turkey's relationship with NATO is complex and multifaceted, characterized by its strategic importance as a long-standing member with the second largest army, but also marked by significant tensions and different priorities. While Turkey has been a committed NATO member since 1952, its foreign policy has sometimes clashed with the alliance, such as delaying the accession of Sweden and Finland and engaging with Russia. Look at that. Bible prophecy speaking, man. It's clear. Okay. Despite these challenges, the relationship is seen by many as mutually beneficial, with Turkey providing a critical military presence and the alliance offering security guarantees, right? Because they are part of the alliance, but the alliance between Turkey and its current alliance with NATO, it is breaking apart. All right. So look at this: military and strategic importance. As a founding member with the second largest army in NATO, so Turkey has the second largest army in NATO. Who has the first? I think it is America. Let me Google it. And of course, it is America, followed by Turkey and then Poland. So can you imagine when it is that Turkey, because the prophecy says that Turkey is going to be aligned with Russia, when Turkey leaves NATO and joins Russia, they're losing their second largest military on that side. Right? America's just going to be devastated once World War III kicks off over there in the so-called Middle East, which is Western Asia. Okay? So, see, challenges and points of friction, foreign policy differences. Turkey's foreign policy has sometimes diverged from that of other NATO members. A prominent example is its perceived need to counter Syrian, etc. All right? So, there's tension. And then when you look at the news from this year, you can see some of it. Turkey and France, allies or rivals. Turkey blocks EU-NATO cooperation on military goals. All right, then you have something that looks positive. Turkey and the West return to the table. Okay. Then you have there's a path forward for Turkey and Greece cooperation, but it requires a dose of realism. Why is there a path forward? Because there is tension there. All right, when it's worded in that kind of way, there means that there's tension there. France-Turkey geopolitics, navigating tensions and cooperation. NATO chief calls on EU to work more closely with Turkey. NATO urges EU and Turkey to deepen ties. Deepen ties, why? Because the relationship is deteriorating. All right, it's Bible prophecy speaking. Okay, and then let's take a look at Turkey and Russia relations. The AI overview. Turkey and Russia have a complex transactional relationship characterized by both cooperation and competition, often described as a strategic partnership that includes cooperation on energy, trade, and certain regional issues, alongside rivalry in areas like Syria and Ukraine. Turkey seeks to balance its relationship with Russia against its NATO commitments and its own regional ambitions. So, as time is going on, Turkey is moving away from its allies where there's tensions and moving towards Russia. Bible prophecy. Okay, so areas of cooperation. Russia is a major supplier of gas and oil to Turkey. Economics. The countries have strong economic ties. Strategic alignment. At times, both Turkey and Russia have found common ground in opposing what they perceive as a dominant US or Western global order. You see? So that dominant US or Western global order is talking about America and then the West, NATO and the EU. Defense. Turkey has acquired Russian military systems such as the S-400 missile system, which has caused friction with its NATO allies. You see? So, yeah, man, the prophecy is speaking. Areas of competition and conflict. Turkey and Russia support opposing sides in the Syrian civil war, and that's because, well, Turkey is still with NATO, etc. But you can see what's happening, man. All right. Look at this. NATO and sanctions. Turkey has refused to join Western sanctions against Russia and has been a key interlocutor, but it also supports Ukraine's territorial integrity. That's the first time I've seen that word. Let me look it up. I have an idea of what it means, but let me look it up. A person who takes part in a dialogue or a conversation, right? Okay. So yeah, point proven. All right. Then in the news, let's see anything in the news. Turkey's adaptive opportunist diplomacy with Russia. Turkey and Russia will remain frenemies in Syria. Frenemies, you know, that word is friends, but also enemies. But they, from what I've read, they look more like just friends. But the reason why they may be viewed as enemies is because of the two opposing sides, you know, between Russia and then America, NATO, and the EU. So this is all at hand, man. All right. And another thing to take note of is this whole war situation. These are all Edomite sovereign nations. So this World War III that is going to be fought is the Edomites fighting one against another, these so-called white people. And the scriptures plainly let us know in the book of Mark, chapter 3 and verse 24. And if a kingdom be divided against itself, that kingdom cannot stand. And Esau's kingdom is against itself. Look at it. And then let's not forget the prophecy in Revelation chapter 17 and verse 16, where the beast and the 10 horns are going to hate the whore, right? So NATO and the EU are going to hate America and burn her with fire. So things are going to also happen, which we have witnessed as well, you know, these years, and especially this year, because this has been a hot year, you know, regarding, you know, Bible prophecy developing of, you know, the tension between America and her alliance with NATO and the EU. So that is also breaking apart, right? So the Edomites are completely fractured. And if a house be divided against itself, that house cannot stand. The house of Esau, the house of Edom, is divided against itself. And if Satan rise up against himself and be divided, he cannot stand but hath an end. Talking about the Edomites, man. All right, and in Revelation chapter 20, it says that old serpent, the devil, and Satan, right? So they're divided. And it says he cannot stand but hath an end, and his end is coming, man. All right. The signs are all there. The end of Esau's kingdom is at hand. All right. So this is just an update regarding the prophecy. And yeah, man, we're going to be witnessing it all very soon, where Turkey is very plainly just going to break off from its current alliance and side with Russia. So with that, all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Shalom.